We all know the Leaning Tower of Pisa, right? That famous architectural mess-up? But what if I told you that mistake, that iconic lean, is the only reason it's still standing today? Yeah, let's get into the incredible story of how this epic fail became an accidental work of genius.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth did this thing, this 12th century blunder, survive everything thrown at it? We're talking wars, gravity constantly trying to pull it down, and even massive earthquakes that wrecked other buildings all around it. The answer? Well, it's just as weird and backward as the tower itself.
All right, so to figure out why it's still here, we got to go back to the beginning. Back to where it all went wrong. Picture it. Nearly 900 years ago, the plan was simple. Build a perfectly straight bell tower. Easy, right? Now, you'd think the whole problem was just bad soil, but it was also a case of really, really bad timing. Or maybe perfect timing. Construction kicks off in 1173. But get this, it took almost 200 years to finish. Why? Because only 5 years into the project, they had to stop for nearly 100 years. And that massive delay, as you're about to see, was one of the luckiest things that ever happened to it.
So, okay, why the lean? The problem was right there from the very start. The foundation. It was only 3 meters deep. That's it. And they built it on this mushy, unstable mix of soft clay and sand. I mean, they basically built this huge, heavy marble tower on what's pretty much a giant sponge. What could possibly go wrong?
Okay, so here's where the story gets really wild. That ground, the mushy sponge that was supposed to be its doom, turns out it's also its savior. How in the world does that work?
So, let's just be clear on the problem. We've got soft, weak soil that can't hold up this massive tower. That's what's causing the lean. Seems pretty straightforward, right? A recipe for disaster. Well,
And yet, that same soft soil is the hero of the story. It's the whole reason the tower survived. I know, it makes no sense. How can the problem also be the solution? It's like the poison is also the cure.
Okay, there's a cool scientific reason for this. It's called soil-structure interaction. Think of it this way. When an earthquake hits, that soft, squishy soil acts like a giant memory foam mattress. It absorbs all the shaking and dampens the vibrations. So while all these other, more solid buildings nearby were cracking and collapsing over the centuries, the Leaning Tower just kind of wobbled and rode out the wave. Its biggest weakness literally became its superpower.
And remember that huge construction delay we talked about? The one that lasted almost a century? Well, that was the other miracle. Stopping the work for that long gave the soil a chance to settle and compact under the weight of the first few floors. If they'd just kept building and rushed to the top, there's no way. The whole thing would have just collapsed into a pile of rubble hundreds of years ago.
Of course, for hundreds of years, nobody saw this as a good thing. They just saw a tower that was about to fall over. So, naturally, they tried to fix it. And those attempts to fix the lean, well, they created one of the tower's coolest and most surprising secrets.
All right, I'm about to tell you something that might blow your mind. The tower isn't straight. Nope, it's actually curved. It's shaped like a banana. Seriously. See, when the builders came back after that long break, they tried to fix the lean. How? By making the new floors taller on one side and shorter on the other. But they kind of overdid it, and that gave the whole tower this subtle curve. You probably wouldn't even see it unless you were looking for it. Okay, let's jump forward to modern times. By 1990, things were getting really scary. The lean was so bad they had to close the tower to the public. It was a real crisis. But the solution was pure genius. Instead of trying to push the tower back up, which is super risky, they did the opposite. They went to the high side, the side that wasn't leaning, and carefully started removing small amounts of soil from underneath. Then they just let gravity do the rest, gently easing the tower back toward the center. And it worked. They managed to correct the lean by 45 centimeters. Think about that. They pulled it back from the edge of collapse. And what's so cool is they never wanted to make it perfectly straight. That would have ruined it. The goal was just to make it safe, to preserve the lean for future generations. They saved the flaw. And that's what saved the tower. But this amazing engineering rescue is only part of the story, right? Because the lean itself is what turned a pretty standard bell tower into a global icon, a symbol of science, history, and just sheer stubborn survival. I mean, everyone knows the story, true or not, about Galileo dropping things off the top to study gravity. And here's a little bit of irony for you. It's a bell tower, right? But they almost never ring its 7 huge bells anymore because the vibrations could be dangerous. And of course, in 1987, it got the recognition it deserved. It became a UNESCO World Heritage. But let's just be real for a second. If this tower had been built perfectly straight, would we even be talking about it? Would you know its name? Probably not. It'd just be another lovely tower in Italy. Its failure is literally what made it famous.
So, where does that leave us? What's next for this amazing mistake, and what can we learn from its almost 900-year-long story?
Well, the good news is, thanks to that clever modern fix, engineers say the tower is stable for at least the next 200 to 300 years, maybe even longer. Isn't that wild? This flawed, ancient tower is probably going to outlast a lot of our modern, perfectly engineered skyscrapers. And maybe that's the real lesson here, right? The Leaning Tower of Pisa is this giant, beautiful reminder that perfection is kinda boring. It's forgettable. It's the mistakes, the flaws, the things that go wrong. When we understand them, when we preserve them, that's what makes something timeless. It became a legend, not for what it was supposed to be, but for everything it wasn't.